Warhammer 40k Gladius Relics of War is a turn-based, rather basic strategy game. Gameplay is done in a hex grid. You can set up your map size, difficulty, starting resources, and so on. There are 4 factions for a player to choose from: Astra Militarium, Necrons, Orcs, and Space Marines. Each faction has different openings and endings, which are kind of cool, quest lines, different units, things to research, and random pop-up text for the units. All of this adds in a little bit of flavor, as well as replayability. Single player and multiplayer are really no different from each other than the question of whether or not you feel like playing against other humans or AI. However, for multiplayer, there's a turn timer, which I recommend using. As it stands, gameplay is very slow. There's a lot of micromanaging involved, and so it can easily slide into feeling sluggish if players also ponder their moves at length on top of that already slow pacing in the gameplay. This problem of game speed ironically becomes worse the more exciting the game should be. This is because every single unit needs to be micromanaged, which makes what should be intense battles feel more like sloths moving pieces across a board. It just can't be grouped. For example, in some games you can group a bunch of units into a squad, send them off, and here, just no. I know the deal with these things. It's just that the tedium in this game was far worse than what I'm used to. I wondered why, and as I thought about it, I came to think it's because such games often have extra mechanics to make things feel a little spicy, a little varied. They just flow better overall when this is done. Perhaps it's because a division of attention is necessary to avoid boredom in players, because if a game only requires heavy levels of micromanagement, then you're just doing the same repetitive tasks over and over and over again without a break. But obviously, this is also a preference thing. I've seen some reviews where other people also compared this game to Civ, but they preferred the straightforward, micromanaging combat nature of Gladius. And when I say it's straightforward and simple, I mean it. There's no diplomacy, stealth, or much customization at all. For instance, units can't be heavily customized, even though heroes can buy some items from a list. Meanwhile, the research mechanic is more like a set of stairs rather than the usual, more complex tree style that I'm used to in games. Skill trees, I think, are a little bit better than this. Some abilities have prerequisites, but for the most part, they do exist independently, as you see here. Gladius does try to add interest in a few ways. There are some obstacles on the map, varied beneficial points for different factions, random enemy encounters, and quest lines. However, each of these attempts fell flat when it came to entertaining me. The obstacles and beneficial points just weren't interesting to me. For example, stopping on wireweed damages a unit, but the damage done is small. So if it's enough to be a significant problem, then a player's unit was probably doomed anyway. Similarly, the beneficial points are handy and a little interesting, but they're not amazing either. Orcs get a healing bonus if they stop on fungoid. Necrons can only make cities on existing tomb spots, and so on. While these mechanics are something to play with, sure, they're all not that engaging. They add a little, not a lot. The random enemy encounters actually can be counterproductive when it comes to adding fun. They can actually add BS into the game. At first, I thought the fact that they were varied was fun. It was kind of cool, but I soon realized in practice that it's actually not. This is because in a game like Civ, for example, the random enemy generations are standard. Barbarians can have different weapons, spears, arrows, whatever, but the players know generally what to expect, and dealing with them is an equal hassle for all. This is why random enemy uniformity works well. It's the same style of encounter for all the players. There's less of a chance of some players getting one thing and other players getting another. When random enemies can be anything from easy beasts to unit stealers to heavy damage dealers in large groups, then that ups the chance that at some point somebody's going to be unlucky and have a hard time, even if they've planned well. This isn't great, especially in a game where building up an army already feels like tedious micromanaging. Trying to prepare for randomly generated BS becomes more of a chore than a thrill fast. For instance, on my first playthrough, I ran into an enslaver in the woods. I lost many of my orcs due to it. The enslaver unit has to be killed to get your enslaved units back, and I just couldn't reach it. The terrain was blocking me from being able to get to it, my own enslaved units were blocking me, and then it just skedaddled, and I'm pretty sure it went over water, where I wouldn't be able to get to it, even if I'd gotten past my enslaved units somehow. At another point, though I can't remember which game it was, if it was the same game or another, I was playing with the same player, and he was also delayed by an enslaver grabbing some of his own units. He began showing similar annoyance at his screen. It wasn't as if this person liked the Enslaver unit either. And then in another game, I was playing somebody else, and this person was stymied by running into heavy hitting encounters with random AI enemies, and I, contrastingly, had way better luck than him. I don't know if I still would have won. Maybe, maybe not. I think I was doing good, but felt a little cheap to get help from the AI, and it definitely was unbalanced. I think these differing experiences kind of show how these encounters are often unwanted and unfun rather than enhancing. And while you can turn random wild enemies off, doing so means that the feature ain't great, and that's my whole point. Since what enemies you'll run into and where is random, setbacks for players can feel unbalanced and irritating, whether it benefits you or your opponents. It doesn't ease the tedium, so as a mechanic introduced to do exactly that, it fails. Lastly, there are those differing faction-based questlines. These can be completed for resource bonuses and backstory, yet these tasks don't help to enliven the game too much. They're nice, they're a little bonus, but it just isn't enough of a punch to give it the flavor it needs to overcome all the blandness. Plus, if you're on a turn timer, then taking the time to read the questline bits will eat into your turn time. I would have liked to be able to minimize the window and read what happened at my own leisure when a quest was completed. Instead, I felt rushed to read it and proceed. When all of this is taken together, the end result is a game with tunnel vision and intense micromanaging. Different factions have different units, which helps give the game some replayability, yet in the end, the overall tedium of its setup is a problem. Speeding up the animations does help to speed up the game, but since units aren't grouped, there's just really no way to circumvent the fact that this game is sluggish to play. That's somewhat normal for turn-based games. It takes time, you have to think, but here it just felt magnified. After all, the person with the mightiest fleet will win, and the only avenue to achieve that is in precise unit management over a very narrow set of options. It's that narrowness that I think is the problem. The look and the sound. The art wasn't amazing to me. It's not bad, it's just that it seemed like what I'd expect from a standard turn-based game. It's, modern isometric look, nothing spectacular. As for the sound, it sounded off to me. Somebody I played with described it as deep-fried, and I think that's a good way to phrase it. It sounded almost as if it was clipped in its distortion. Its sound effects didn't seem to fit in quite right. This held true despite putting the sound effect volume low in the settings. To be fair, the voice slideshows are okay, but since these are minor blips in the game and not core to it, they don't really add much to the experience of actually playing the game. Final thoughts. I think that there's just not much to like here in the base game. For a turn-based strategy game, Gladius is very lackluster in its strategy and management options. Meanwhile, it also has little in the way of flavor. Some of the pop-up text and the descriptions can be fun to read, especially in the case of the orcs, but nothing here felt amazing to me. At best, the game got a few scattered chuckles out of me, yet I was mainly just staring at my screen, finding myself bored, and wanting my games to end faster than they did. I tried to give it a thorough chance because I was wondering why so many people reviewed it positively. This seems to be a well-liked game. After many hours playing it, I was done with it for good, or at least done with it unmodded. Personally, I wouldn't even pay more than $10 for it. I really don't think it's complex enough to merit such a high price point. There's also a ton of DLC for the game, but the bundle is also incredibly expensive at around $135. That said, if you do still want to get Gladius, then I suggest waiting for a big discount, and I think mods are a must, but it's way too boring when it's just the base game. If I do play it again, then yeah, I would definitely use mods myself. I took a peek and some, such as the Too Many Voices mod, look pretty cool to me. I think that would add a lot of flavor and help disperse some of that blandness. However, when it comes to mods, that is a very personal choice in which ones to add and which ones not to, and since it's not part of the base offering itself, I tend to be kind of hesitant to include them in reviews. So between all the official and unofficial offerings, I think it's worth taking a peek, if you still want to get the game, to see what in particular you feel would enhance the game for you and solve some of the problems I mentioned. But when it comes to the base game, I gotta say I wasn't impressed.